Welcome to my video on Everquest Classic Power Leveling. I have a big mega power leveling video I made that had all the routes all the way up to like Gates of Discord and information on power leveling, etc. And then I realized people were just skipping to the parts they needed. So I've decided to make just the classic version. And even though there was a lot of philosophy and talk at the beginning of that video, there still are some things that I need to point out. First off, this is a power leveling video, which means you're going to be pulling a very large quantity of mobs. Having said that, the main way to power level is usually done with Stunlock. And the way that works is there's usually 3 to 5 enchanters that will rotate their area effect stun spells so that when you bring in like a large group of enemies or mobs, they do no damage. They just sit there stunned the whole time. So that usually means there's going to be some type of bard in the group that will sit there and play area effect songs while nobody's taking damage, and then all the characters your power level will be inside that group. So that's not really obtainable or desirable by almost anybody except people that are looking to sell power leveling services. There's not really a point in the game to boxing 3 to 5 enchanters to level your own characters. But the only point in really doing that is probably because you're selling power leveling services. Most people watching this video are probably not going to be looking to do that. So the second form of semi-acceptable power leveling is done through damage shield power leveling. So the best way to do that is, even if you're leveling like a melee character, I still will get like either a bard or a wizard, and I'll box 2 of them together in groups so that I can cast either a low level area effect direct damage spell, or I can have the bard playing AE damage songs similar to the way the Stunlock leveling works. Because the only way to get experience is if the group out damages all other sources of damage. So damage shields are considered neutral damage, so you can do 99.9% of the damage with a damage shield, and all you have to do to get experience is even do 1 point of damage. In the old days when I was just boxing one character to level and I didn't want to put like a bard or level a wizard to do AE damage, I used to just do what I call hit and run. So you put the damage shield on that like low level warrior or whatever melee character you seem to be power leveling at the time, then you run around with it hitting mobs, doing at least 1 point of damage, and then running to the next one, hitting it, and you keep going down the line, hitting every mob. So the main problem with that, besides having to run and hit everything individually, is that you're going to initially take damage on that character, so you're going to have to twink it up or put some items on it, mostly hit point items starting out, so that you can live long enough to at least get healed so that the actual aggro will go to your healer. So having said that, obviously you're going to want a druid to do any type of power leveling. Now this guide is not necessarily made for what I call assisted power leveling or out of group leveling or having one of your buddies follow you around. This is made for mass pulls. So if you're attempting to follow this guide and maybe you only have like a single high level druid, you can kind of power level up to the point where that druid can make these big pulls and heal itself without dying. And in the classic realm, that may end after Solusek A, where you'll no longer be considered power leveling. It will just be assisted leveling, where maybe you're just only pulling a few mobs. And if you're to that point where you're not actually power leveling, there's going to be better spots or less camped spots than what's in this guide. This guide and these zones are picked solely because there's so many mobs available and there's such good areas to pull a large quantity of mobs. So if you're doing some type of assisted leveling or a friend's helping you out, this is not necessarily the guide you want to follow. So having said that, in Classic, the max level is 50 and there's not going to be any AA or alternate advancement points. So unless you're Stunlock leveling, what's really going to happen, or what your goal really is going to be, is that you're going to try to get your character up to level 33, I think it is, so that you can group with a max level 50. And then you're just going to put them in a group of full 50s and kill fast. And that's going to turn into like an assisted power leveling, not necessarily power leveling. You won't really be able to do very big pulls beyond 33 because the mobs will eat up even your group, or your druid for sure will start to get the shit kicked out of it. The power level past the point where you can actually group with a max level character is going to require you to do Stunlock leveling. However, when I power level, I have so many characters out of group that I'm boxing doing damage that it moves almost as fast as Stunlock leveling would go. Even at the higher levels, what I'll do is I'll group like a level 33 with one level 50, and as long as that combo does more damage than all the other level 50s outside of the group, you'll get full experience for that. That's one way to do it if you don't put them in a full group. It really depends on what you have available. But if you're power leveling, I'm assuming that you can box at least 3, if not 6 or more characters. That's what this guide is. I will be making leveling guides and assisted leveling guides, so look for those. But I just want to be very clear on what type of guide this is. The first area you're going to go to is Unrest. And what you're going to do is you're going to set up somewhere in the courtyard, and you're going to pull all the surrounding mobs in one pull, which should get you maybe 20. And it's got semi-fast respawn there. So what you're looking to do with your power leveling setup is to pull all of the mobs in the courtyard to an area, which I have some maps, and you can pull to this area or pick your own area. And you want to get them all gathered up. And for this step, you don't necessarily need more than a druid, but I always like to have a reser with. So my main power leveling group consists of a high level bard, a high level druid, and a paladin. And that allows me to put all 3 of them in a group, pull with the paladin, who can take more damage, have the Druid damage shield on the full group, the Bard damage shield on the group as well to make an additional damage shield. And then I have the Paladin to res, and then I have the Druid and Paladin which can heal back and forth to each other, because sometimes, especially later on when you start pulling, it's going to be really hard to heal yourself with just one healer. So you pull with the Paladin, you're all buffed up, you got your damage shields on, so it's neutral damage. And even if you're leveling a melee character, like I said, I either make a Wizard or a Bard, and I will just abandon them at some point. But every time I power level, I put a Wizard or a Bard in so that they can play low level area effect damage. So after you pull the entire courtyard, you'll continue to cast your area effect damage, and these mobs are going to be somewhat higher than you, so they're going to resist. So you want to cast it enough times to make sure you hit every single one of them. And once you have that entire grouping down, you wait for respawns and you pull again, and that will get you to 15. And the next spot you're going to go is Soul A. And Soul A is one of the main power leveling spots for a very long time, even as more expansions come out. It's just such a good spot. So what I like to do is I set up on the bridge area marked on this map, and if you're lower level, say you come here at 15, the bridge into the north is where the lower level mobs are. So if you're having a hard time landing your area effect damage spells, you pull the north side of the zone first. Being level 50, you might have to break this into 3 or 4 pulls. Later on in game, you can literally pull all of the north and all the south at the same time. I assume that in Classic, you'll probably die making that pull, but you'll have to pull it in segments, and you probably want to gather up 10 to 20 mobs each pull. And if the pulls take too long or you get lost, you might want to click your damage shield off of your puller, whether that's your Paladin or your Druid, and then you'll recast it when you get back, so that way that the mobs aren't dying before you get back. And you can do Soul A probably up to level 30, because like I said, the south side is generally a little bit higher, so level 30 would actually work for this. However, I leave at 25 and I head to Lower Guk. So by the time you get to Lower Guk, there are going to be camps that you've probably actually used to level to 50, especially when you get down to the King and the Crusader area. So this is where you're really going to be looking to hit level 33 and then put that character in your group and just beat on stuff as if you were kind of grouping down there. Now I box more than 6 characters, so I have a full support group of pretty much everything and all buffs. This could easily turn into just assisted leveling at level 33. But if you start in Lower Guk and you run through like the Minotaur caves in that area, or the lower level camps, you may be able to pull 5 to maybe 15 mobs depending on what type of heal support you have and what type of gear you have with your max level characters. But other than that, once you hit 33, like I said, you're probably going to be grouping. So you could actually leave Lower Guk at level 33, and if you do have a max level enchanter, then you can take them to the hole and put the enchanter in group with the character you're trying to level, and use a charmed golem or something like that in the hole to kill stuff faster and really crank out the experience to get that character to level 50. Now, if you don't want to go to Lower Guk, to go from levels 25 to 33. I did throw in the alternate of Castle Mistmoore, which is a very popular zone. And if you start at the entrance up to the caves, you can go from 20 to 25, and then you can work your way back toward the graveyard area and hit up to 33 and then go to the hole. Or you can stay at the 35, and you could even go back into the keep if you have a strong enough power leveling group, and you could easily get to level 40 in that area. That's the route. Some of the zones will change the next expansion, but the real big limiter, if you're not using the Stunlock enchanter power leveling, and you're using like a damage shield type power leveling, is you really need a big support group of max levels, and you really should have the best gear you have, because a level 50 against a level 33 without like the alternate advancement points and the excessive gear that you get later in expansions is really starting to push the limits for how much you can take at a time. Like obviously having a level 50 tank helps rather than having your Druid pull, because it'll take more damage and it has self heals to keep aggro on itself. So you might be able to pull still 10, 15 mobs in the 30s with your level 50 tank. So in essence, damage shield power leveling is not that exciting in Classic. It does get better and does get a lot more fun. What you're really looking to do when you're boxing and leveling up your alts is to get to that level 33 where you can group with the level 50. If you're looking to sell power leveling services, you could level up the enchanters and do it that way with the Stunlock power leveling, get 3 to 5 enchanters. A lot of people don't want to use 3 to 5 computers or accounts for enchanters if they're going to be actually playing the game and not just selling power leveling services. So it is much better to me to level up, like a Druid, a Bard, a Paladin, an Enchanter, and a Shaman as my 5 to help power level rather than have the 5 enchanters, but you should be aware of it. What you really want to do is take your level 50 enchanter, group it with your level 33, and use a charm pet. Power level, you can make that safer by having a Bard stand on the outside and permanently casting Mez on the charm pet, so the charm pet doesn't break and kill the shit out of you. And you'll also have healers, buffers, and resers outside, so if anything bad does happen. But using a level 50 enchanter group to level 33 is probably significantly faster than trying to area pull with a damage shield into the 30s if you're not able to do the Stunlock power leveling with all the enchanters. Thanks for watching, and even though I made a mega power leveling video that has all the individual routes all the way up to Gates of Discord, I will be making a video for each expansion specifically so that people aren't fast forwarding through that video.